This is Seymour Rocks reporting from Down Under. I'm looking with horror tonight at events in the United States from thousands of miles away, from half a world away in New Zealand. I'm not surprised that people in this country do not understand what is happening, because the news here is so censored that not only do they not get the context of what is happening, they don't even get the facts. If you look at the New Zealand media, all you get is Trump, Trump, Trump. He is responsible for every single evil in America and in the world. What we have, according to this propaganda, are demonstrations, reported only sporadically, with peaceful demonstrators asking for an end to police brutality and racism. The riots have been seeing only because I look widely, according to this narrative, simply do not exist. And of course, America has a problem with police brutality. Of course they have a problem with racism. But that has been going on for decade after decade. And what has changed? All that has changed is that we have Donald Trump, that what we call the deep state, want to bring down. I'm not an extreme person and never have been. Oh, I had my little flurry when I was in my late teens, but the lies and the propaganda have driven me to be far more socially conservative than I ever have been in my whole life. My whole world has been completely turned upside down in a comparatively short time, in particular since the 2016 election and the election of Donald Trump. So I've never been a supporter of Trump, but I've always tried to see him in the context of what's happening in America and happening in the world. I've been watching the collapse of industrial civilization for almost 10 years, and now it is happening at breakneck speed, and everything we have regarded as normal is falling apart in front of our eyes, everywhere. And I now believe that this is by design. I have learnt about the technocratic changes the globalist elites wanted to bring in to completely change the world and bring the general population under subjugation. For a long time I was very dubious about this. I didn't really believe it. I thought it was all conspiracy theory. But as time has gone on, I've now become convinced that that is their plan, at least. And it was always supposed that these changes would be rolled out between now and 2030. But it looks as if with this planned coronavirus pandemic, they have been presented with a golden opportunity and have decided not to wait, but to roll it out now. So to make sense of this, I've been turning to the excellent coverage and analysis of the people at True News. My background is one of the moderate left in my past, so the language of the conservative and religious right is strange to me, and I'm baffled by the language that is used about communists, anarchists and Jacobins. However, the rapid change and the totally demented language of what goes for the left these days has sent me scurrying for an alternative narrative. So I find myself agreeing with the True News people, Rick Wiles, Doc Burkhart and Edward Zoll and others, more and more with every day. To make sense of these terrible events in the United States, which can definitely be characterized as a colour revolution, especially what has been going on in Wisconsin in recent days and what's been happening in Seattle and Portland, Oregon, I've decided to put together my own montage combining some video footage with some of the discussion from the True News crowd. I hope that if you're not yet convinced that these are not just peaceful demonstrators and not leftist thugs, rioters and looters, you'll be a little bit more convinced after watching this and be motivated to do a little bit more of your own research. So have a look for yourself.
Yes! Don't break it. I'm not moving already. Gas! They're going to deploy. They're getting out. I'm not. 10-4 on gas! We're getting gas! Get ready to kick it! If you can't put it back there! They all have gas masks on! Get ready! Gas masks on! Go back! Hey! There they go. That's the door, shorty. That's the door. Watch out, bro. Hey, you gotta go kill it. Just arrived in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and this is the aftermath from last night. All these cars are torched. That's seems that's the name of the business here. So you can get a little zoom in. Car Source pre-owned vehicles, and you can definitely still smell the burn from last night. So. Yeah, you can still smell that very clear, and all of these cars are torched. I would say there's, jeez,
We'll go back to Portland. And this is number 9, and I guess they found another police precinct building that they hadn't burned down yet, so they set another police precinct building on fire in Portland.
Watch this.
Hey, Doc, I'd like to ask right-wing every day, what was that device that the communists wheeled out into the street? What was that device? A guillotine. And who predicted years ago that the Jacobins of America would behead people? Rick Wiles. And Right Wing Watch, you made fun of me. But you're the fool. But you're part of it. It's not that this caught you by surprise. Right Wing Watch is part of the communist revolution in America. That's why they smear me. They're part of the There's coming a day we're going to deal with this entire communist revolution, Doc.
Yes.
And we know who they are. We're going to deal with it. That day's coming. They brought out a guillotine to send the message, we're ready to behead people who resist this revolution. That wasn't there to chop cabbages.
Right.
They weren't making coleslaw. They weren't slicing bologna. That was to tell Americans that the revolution is quickly approaching the time of bloodshed, of executions. I'm telling the American people again, if this communist revolution is not crushed, they're going to execute innocent people in the streets of American cities and towns. This is a genuine, real communist revolution. And people are not taking it seriously. For heaven's sakes, they got a guillotine in the streets. What do you need to convince you that these people are bloodthirsty anarchists?
And did you see that the blade that was painted there had a little bit of blood on it?
Of course it did.
You know, as if we've already used this once. They're sending a definite message, Rick, that this is coming to your neighborhood. This is coming for you.
Vote Democrat if you like this anarchy, because this is what they're bringing to America. Well, listen, we're going to switch over to another topic. We'll take a look at what the other side of the revolution is doing. let's not forget about the coronavirus pandemic and how the U.S. economy was body slammed to the ground, and millions of people put out of work, millions of businesses closed. A coincidence? No. All part of the same operation. First shut down the economy, then burn the cities.
Yes.
It was all part of the same strategy. And they're still carrying it out. But the economic toll is worsening in this country and around the world. I'll show you a Wall Street Journal report from today. This is number 11. American Airlines going to eliminate 19,000 jobs by October 1st if the U.S. government doesn't give American Airlines any more bailout money.
Now, Rick, as of the end of last year, American Airlines had 130,000 plus employees worldwide. Earlier this year, they did a cut of about 15 to 20,000 people earlier this year. This would mean an additional nearly 20,000 jobs cut at American Airlines. And that doesn't even count the attrition ones and everything else that have moved out, people that said, I'm done, or people that have taken in retirement, things like that over the past 6 months. American Airlines is really, it's getting sliced in pieces.
Yes,
it really, really is.
Yes.
People don't understand that the airline industry is never going to be the same after this. It's going to be a whole different world.
Worldwide, Doc.
Yes.
Major airlines around the world are teetering on bankruptcy. Some have already closed. Down in Latin America, I know, I think Avianca in Colombia has, and I've flown that airline, they have filed bankruptcy. Liat in the Caribbean has filed bankruptcy. And same way in Asia and other parts of the world, major airlines have already gone under. The International Association of Airlines said last week that air travel will not return to normal levels, meaning pre-coronavirus levels, that it will not return to normal levels until the year 2024. Doc, they keep pushing the date out. I mean, if you go back and look at, if we go back to May, the airline industry was probably saying the end of 2021.
Right. Then you saw the stories 2022. Now they're saying all the way out to 2024. Now, earlier this year, American Airlines had received $25 billion in aid to help carry them through September. All the airlines received aid. So you start multiplying that, all the different carriers here in the U.S. But that stimulus is ending here at the end of September. So we either let it go and let the airlines, just dissolve, or we pump more money into it. We're at $20 trillion in debt right now, Rick. What difference is it going to make if we go to $40 trillion at this point? It doesn't really matter, does it?
It doesn't matter at this point.
I'm not endorsing that, but I'm saying it's such a huge number. What difference does it make anymore? No one cares.
It's surreal. It's surreal. It doesn't matter. So, just keep printing the money, because we've entered. We just entered a stage of insanity. So there's no point in even stating what is sound fiscal policy, Doc.
Right.
Just think of that term, sound fiscal policy.
I have to have sound fiscal policy in my personal life.
But not in the government.
No.
That doesn't apply. But when's the last time you've heard a politician campaign on sound fiscal policy?
That's
Ronald Reagan?
A long time ago.
I think Reagan was probably the last one that wanted a balanced budget. That was one of Reagan's campaign platforms.
Right.
That he wanted a balanced federal budget. When's the last time you've heard a politician demand a balanced budget?
Like you said, maybe Reagan. But you never hear anyone else talk about it.
That's how long.
But
we've
you
been.
have to have a balanced budget in your own home.
Right. Let The next one is from NBC Channel 4 in New York City. A murky future lies ahead for New York's restaurant industry. I read the story. It's sad. Doc, I hate reading about people losing their dreams, losing their life's work, losing what motivates them to get up in the morning and go to work. It's, building a business, doing something that makes life better for themselves and for others.
Right.
And this story said that between March and July of this year, during coronavirus, 3,800 businesses have closed permanently in New York City. 3,800 closed permanently. 50% were restaurants.
Wow. Nearly 2,000 restaurants have closed.
Yes.
That is a stunning number. And one of the great things about going to New York, visiting New York,
the restaurants.
I mean, if you're staying in, whether it's Midtown Manhattan or anywhere really, to be able to walk out and within 2 or 3 blocks to find a dozen different types of restaurants, various international cuisines.
And it doesn't matter in
everything.
New York City whether you're talking about a 5-star restaurant at a high price or you're talking about
a street vendor.
A street vendor, the food is great.
Yes.
New York City's known for great food. And so they're being wiped out because of Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio. Another communist. What are they doing? They're destroying the economy. This is a deliberate destruction of the American economy. For what purpose? To make you dependent on a communist state.
And if you've never been in the restaurant industry or you've never worked in a restaurant, usually a restaurant is a starter job for a lot of people, but for, people that are passionate about starting a business, they start a restaurant but they can't operate. It's a very thin margin.
Yes.
So when they get these draconian measures and say, listen, you can only have 25% seating in your restaurant. You can't operate a business on 25% seating. You can't do it.
That photograph that was in that picture of that article, the owner of that restaurant had a $23,000 monthly rent.
Right.
How do you pay $23,000 rent when your business is shut down, or you can only operate at 1/4 of capacity? The rent is not reduced 3/4. That woman that owned that restaurant had to come to this painful decision of closing down her dream because Governor Cuomo was going to decide what kind of food, whether you could eat chicken wings or hot dogs.
Right.
That's how insane this is with what the Democrats have done to America in a period of, 4 or 5 months?
And once again, Rick, New York, some people like it. I love New York. I had never been to New York until several years ago. And now, I have to say, I really, when they say I love New York, I love New York. I like the feel of it. I like the energy of it. I like just walking the streets of New York and the vibrancy there. And, it's expensive to live there, but I can just imagine if you were living there, wow, the options that you have, so many things to do. But when you start taking away things like this, one of the key features of a city like New York, you ask yourself, why do I stay? Why am I staying?
They're leaving.
That's right.
People are fleeing New York.
Right. Why would you stay when you can't go to the museums? You can't go to the parks. The parks are closed in New York. And then now the restaurants are closing.
San Francisco. Have you seen photographs of,
yes.
of the financial district of San Francisco?
I have. Yes.
It's closed down.
Yes. And the same situation there. San Francisco has that energy and feel in the downtown. And if you haven't seen pictures of the wharf, that wharf district down there, empty. I mean, the times I've been there, it's always crowded, always packed, even on the coldest days.
how are these people, how are the people that own the businesses, how are they surviving?
They don't survive. That's just it. The ones that do survive, I mean, I don't understand how they can make it, because restaurants, as I say, operate on such a super thin margin. And you may be saying, well, they can just do takeout. No, even though it seems like takeout is going bonkers around the nation, it's not true at all. Total deliveries are only up 25% nationwide. Yes. That's it. That
Doc,
doesn't account for all the loss.
A lot of these businesses that are still open are running on their cash reserves that they built up in 2019.
Yes.
And they're keeping their business open, holding out, believing that this is going to end, the lockdown is going to end, a business is going to come back. But sometime this year, they will run out of cash reserves. Yeah. In fact, I saw today, it was a poll conducted by the National Association of, I guess, Independent Businesses, and the poll showed that 1/5 of all the businesses that they polled that were members of this association said that they will be out of business within 6 months.
Wow.
They cannot hold on longer than 6 months.
And you have to ask yourself, is this planned? Is this the plan?
Yes.
To knock them out?
Yes. Yes. I do believe it, Doc. This is a planned implosion of America. They're destroying the old America to bring forth a new America.
Wow.
You will have a handful of trillionaires. They're not going to be billionaires anymore. They're going to be trillionaires that will own everything. The Jeff Bezos, right? How many businesses have been taken out, but Amazon can't hire enough people?
Right.
Because deliveries are being made to the home. So some businesses are prospering, but thousands of businesses are dying. It's a planned destruction of the American society. And Joe Biden said he'll shut the country down again.
Yes.
If there's there's a business still open, shut it down.
Right.
Biden said, I'm going to shut everything down. Oh boy, Joe.
And he was proud of that.
Oh wow, Joe. Man, I'm so happy to hear what you're going to do. If there's any green sprout of growth anywhere in the country, he's going to rip it out.
Yes, and step on it.
Look at the Hegelian tactic of the Democrats. Look, again, I'm not a Republican, but I can see through a lot of BS that's given to the public. So the Democrats are attacking Donald Trump. The economy was red hot under Trump. It's the only thing Donald Trump had going for him. Red hot economy. They knew you can't defeat Trump no matter what he does. You can't defeat him if the economy is that good.
Right.
They had to destroy the economy. I never imagined they were this wicked. They would really do something this wicked? Yes, they would.
But it seems like now the Republicans are hand in hand with them on this.
Well, they're dumb. There's a reason a Republican is called the stupid party. Doc, they're stupid. They really are stupid. All right? The Republicans never figure out the game plan. They just try to say, well, me too. But they never figure out the game plan. Okay? But so the Democrats and Biden have blamed Donald Trump for the mess that the country's in. All right, because of with the economy. Are you following this logic? They're blaming Trump for the mess that the economy is in.
And yet they're the ones pushing for
and yet
more restrictions
they want
on the
another lockdown.
Yes.
How can you have both?
Because you're
The
a Democrat.
lockdown is what has caused this mess. And they're telling us if you vote Democrat, we will lock it down again.
And you'll prosper. How does it? That doesn't work that way, does it?
No. How can there be any prosperity if the whole country's locked down? Because they're going to crush the economy so that they can remake the economy.
Yes.
Folks, several years ago, when Doc and Edward and I were going to the technology conferences, and we were telling you what we were seeing and hearing, and some of our dear friends out there got very angry at us and yelled at us and threatened us. So we'll never watch True News again, and we're not going to support True News. You keep going to these technology conferences, and we're not going to watch you anymore, and blah, 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 blah. And we kept saying, please, just listen to us. They're planning a new world. They're planning a new world. You better figure out what they're planning to roll out. None of us, including myself, imagined that they would pull an emergency brake on the world. That's what they did, Doc. Like a train with an emergency brake. They pulled an emergency brake on the world and brought the world to a stop. And now they said, everything's crumbling. We're going to roll out our new world.
And
Your businesses are dead. Hey, you didn't like the idea of driverless cars? Well, now you will, because you don't want to be in a vehicle with a taxi driver that has coronavirus.
That's right. And
Okay.
you don't know who's been in that car. You want a sanitized car, don't you?
And you didn't want a driverless vehicle bringing your groceries to your door. You wanted to go to the grocery store and push your little cart down the aisle and get your vegetables and your canned goods and all that. You didn't want that robot to put the groceries in a driverless vehicle and bring it to your house, but you will now.
That's right.
You didn't want to work at home, but you will now. You don't want your kids to stay at home and do online education, but you're doing it now. You don't want robots on the street as cops, but they're coming to see who's wearing a mask. Everything we were telling you they're going to roll out in this fourth industrial revolution, and we were telling you, hey, it's going to take to 2030 to bring this stuff out. Oh man, no, they surprised all of us. They pulled the emergency brake on the world. And they said, we're going to roll it out immediately. We're going to make you beg for it. You wouldn't want a microchip in your body, but you'll take the vaccine.
Because you want to get some groceries.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
coming to that.
You wouldn't wear, back in January, you wouldn't allow somebody to tell you to wear a mask, but you gladly wear it now. And now people are wearing face shields. I don't know if that's happening in your community, but I'm being told this week here in Vero Beach, face shields are showing up.
Yes, I saw it today myself. Face shields and a mask. So I'm still trying to comprehend.
So you got to have both?
They were wearing both. And in some professions, you have to wear both right now. And I don't know what the face shield does. What is it supposed to do?
Scary.
Is the coronavirus jumping into our eyes now? Is that the entry point?
Doc, I'm hearing from young parents who took their children to school Monday for the opening of school, and their children had to wear masks. They arrive at school, and the teachers and the teachers' aides were wearing face shields.
With masks too.
Yes.
Now, how
And
scary is that for a kid?
Frightening, terrifying the children.
Well, and I suppose, you have to ask, well, why don't the kids have shields too? It would make sense, right?
Well, that's where it's going. Right now we think, oh no, they wouldn't do that. Well, let's wait until October. Wait until October, November and see if they require children to wear face shields to school. They have found out that most people will do whatever they're told to do. That's the truth. Most people will do what they're told to do because they become spineless, brainless cowards.
Yes.
And they will do what they're told to do. All you got to do is scare them. And they're giving up their freedom. They've already gave it up. They gave up their independence. They gave up their dignity. They gave up everything.
And this is in spite of the CDC admitting.
Oh, the CDC? What did they admit?
Masks don't make a difference.
That just came out this week.
Yeah, that the masks really don't make a difference.
So I guess Fauci can go back to not wearing a mask.
No, we've got to be all muzzled, Rick. The mask is a muzzle, if you think of it that way. The mask is a muzzle because they don't want you to speak out. They don't want you to say anything different than what the party line has to say.
Hey, I'm going to go through a couple more headlines. We're not even going to get to our main topic. So let's go to, this is number 13. Remote workers suffer from loneliness and isolation. Well, that's no great revelation right there. CNBC.
Well, you know how to solve that. Let them go back to work.
Yes.
That'd be one way to do it.
Which explains this next article from CNBC. J.P. Morgan will have staff cycle between office and remote work.
Well, all right, so which is it, Rick?
Well, J.P. Morgan is figuring out that their staff is becoming depressed. So they're going to allow their staff to come back into the banks maybe for 2 days a week or maybe a week or two out of the month.
Okay.
But they know that they got to get them out of the home.
All right, so the coronavirus takes a couple days off a week at the office?
Yes.
So that's how it works. Or a couple weeks off, depending on...
And on the subway train.
Okay. So that's
so it'll
how
be
coronavirus
safe
works.
on the alternating weeks. It'll be safe. There won't be any coronavirus in their buildings on the weeks that they allow them to come back in the office.
So that's how that logic works.
And
okay.
if you read the CNBC article, one of the J.P. Morgan bank officials said, this is the new permanent way.
Yes.
This isn't temporary. He said permanent. That's because the plan is have people work at a distance. That's the plan. Doctor, the next one is also CNBC. ExxonMobil has been bumped off the Dow.
It's only been there for 100 years.
Yeah.
Nearly 100 years.
It no longer qualifies to be on the Dow. I don't know if that's shocking to you. It's shocking to me. Like ExxonMobil?
The old Esso oil company,
Yes.
Mobil oil company, combined a few years ago. It's been a mainstay. I mean, fuels and oil have been, one of the safe bets. Energy has always been a safe bet in the market. Replaced by who, Rick?
Software companies?
Yes. That's how things have changed so much.
Software. Virtual. Everything's virtual. I'm going to show you one more because I think this one, this man in Northern California speaking to his county officials in Shasta County, California, he speaks for a lot of people. He's a veteran, a businessman, and a family man, and he is fed up with the lockdown. Let's watch it.
Comes because our families are starving. And if you don't hear the seriousness of my voice, I hope you open your ears and you absolutely listen to what I'm saying. Because this is a warning for what's coming. It's not going to be peaceful much longer. It's not going to be rah-rah. It's not going to be speeches. It's not going to be gathered outside saying a Pledge of Allegiance. It's not going to be waving flags. It's going to be real. When you've seen the things that I've seen, I went to war for this country. I've seen the ugliest, dirtiest part of humanity. I've been in combat, and I never want to go back again. But I'm telling you what, I will to save this country. If it has to be against our own citizens, it will happen. And there's a million people like me, and you won't stop us. Open the county. Let our citizens do what they need to do. Let owners of businesses do what they need to do to feed their families. Take the masks off. Quit masking and muzzling your children. The psychological damage you're doing to them is horrible. I've had 6 friends kill themselves since it's happened, veterans who lost their jobs. How do you feel about being complicit in perpetuating that? The greatest hoax ever perpetuated on the American people, and you're a part of it by wearing your masks. In Shasta County, we're supposed to be red country up here. Not blue country, we're red country up here.
That's the feeling of a lot of people out there, Rick. They're getting frustrated with all this nonsense. They're seeing through the facade. They're tired of the lies, and the frustration is getting there. But at the same time, Rick, I think there are people in this country that are hoping that people get upset about this and take things in their own hand so they can take them out.
Communism only succeeds in political domination if there is much suffering.
Yes.
They have to make the population suffer to accept communism. And they know there will be resistance to the communism. But they need the division and the strife to justify killing the resistors.
Yes.
This isn't really hard to figure out. All you have to do is read history books about how communists took over other nations. They have to crash the society, make the pain unbearable, so that people are begging for food, begging for security, begging for some kind of society. And then when there's resistance to the takeover, they have the justification to kill or imprison the people who resist the communist takeover. Right. So America right now is under a Democratic Party, Communist Party takeover. They're crushing the economy. They want people to suffer, and they want resistance. They're burning the cities. If they haven't destroyed the businesses with their lockdowns, they're burning the businesses. They want chaos in this country. That is not a byproduct. I mean, it is actually the strategies, what they've planned for America. And the American people they have to wise up and deal with what is happening. And if you think, well, we're going to solve it at the election, it's not going to go away. No matter who wins, it's not going away. If Biden wins, they push that old man so far, they're going to back him up in the corner, and they're going to push him to approve their communist agenda, and he will. And if Trump wins, they're going to fight. So pick which one you want. It's going to happen. The communist revolution wants a fight in this country. It is about a takeover. And the only thing communists understand is force. That's a sad fact. And so at some point, the American people have to put up strong resistance to the revolution and say, we're not going to tolerate it. We're not going to accept it.